Lee Jones here from Hotspawn, and I'm joined by a special guest today, Arun Rajappa from Riot Games, the country manager for India and South Asia. Welcome, Arun. And I guess for those that might not be familiar with you or with your role, maybe we'll just literally just start straight with that. What is it that you do at Riot? What is your day to day?
In terms of my role at Riot, the India office is a publishing office, so we are really focused at how do we bring our, the games that Riot is famous for, League of Legends, Valorant, TFT, and the other games. Um, how do we bring those to players in the region in a way that really celebrates players? As you know, I mean, Riot is kind of known for an approach uh, to sort of being very player focused and being very focused on the player experience in the community. And so we just want to bring that energy and that kind of joy of gaming to players in the region. I mean, just to contrast it, I think many times you find that gamers in India aren't very well served in the sense that they're part of a global game,
Mhm.
but there's nothing that's local that they can relate to. There's nothing that's sort of very relevant to their day to day, right? And so I think that's where our office comes in. And yeah, I think over the last few years we've assembled a really strong team of people like Fatima, who's focused on influencer management, and others on the team who are just kind of sort of living and breathing that how do we bring that player experience to life. Right? And so that's the core focus of the role. It of course details out into a variety of things that we can get into, but yeah, that's really the one liner, which is how do we give players the best experience they can have with our games.
Yeah. And how has it been like a transition from your previous roles then? So you'd been a director of product at a couple of places I saw, yeah, for Google, and you worked at Microsoft for a while as well. Um, is it a bit of a different role? Because it sounds different at least from like the title you'd imagine, but yeah, what are the kind of things that kind of carried over there?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a different role in many ways. It's similar in some ways. I'll just break it out for you, right? So, I mean, at a surface level, it's very different. Director of product at Google, I was looking at Android and Play Store, and before that at Microsoft, director of product for Microsoft Teams and our emerging markets initiatives, amongst other things. So I think product management itself is very different from games publishing. Right? So at that level, it's very different, right? Uh, I moved from those roles into the role at Riot, where I was kind of, after spending some time at Google, I was like, okay, maybe it's time for something different. I've been doing this for 16, 17 years, and I kind of did some introspection of what are the things that I want to do for the next 10 years, really enjoy and want to go back to. And the two things that popped for me were sports. I've always been big into like playing all kind of sports, and the other was gaming. And so when Riot came along, that worked out well, and I was like, okay, this really uh, is something that I can do for the next 10 years and see how I can shape this. Right? So that was exciting. Where it's very similar, I think, is I've spent almost the last 15 years, from 2010 when I moved back from the US, very focused on how growth in India can happen, right? And really shaping growth for India and emerging markets. Initially at Microsoft, with some of the work I did, then I did a startup in India, and I came back to Microsoft to focus on emerging markets specifically. And then with Google Android, it was all about sort of next billion Android users. And so with Riot again, it's very much about how do we get the next generation of gamers, the next hundreds of millions of gamers into this into the focus for a large company like Riot, right? And how do we do something for them? Yeah. So I think at that level it's similar. A lot of other things like working within an international company, creating alignment around India, sort of strategic thinking, leadership, setting up a team. Those things are common, but yeah, Riot has been fun. It's a much smaller company than Microsoft and Google. And so it just allows me to also connect with people across the company and really create that focus for India. So I've loved being here.
Hmm. Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, saying about like part of that being how do we get people in that area to start playing Riot Games titles. I'd say especially for like League of Legends, that's like notoriously a very difficult game to sort of get into, and like the more time goes on, it seems harder because there's more and more champions. Um, and I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying there's not like a server even like directly located around India that would be necessarily that ideal to use. Is there something do you feel like that's maybe one of the titles that is a bit trickier, or like how do you see the strategy there? Because I know um there's a new tournament as well for like potentially getting into the LCP around the region as
Mhm.
well, Leagues Ascend. So how much yeah, what's kind of the strategy there?
Yeah, that's a great question. And let me kind of say three, four things around that, right? I think one is uh, League as a MOBA is kind of the OG game for Riot, right? It's like even though I think the number of players in India aren't that many, I think the people who play League anywhere in the world, including India, really love the game, right? So what we find even in India is that it's a small community, but it's a very deep community. It's people who've been playing the game for like the last 10 years in some sense, right? And and we haven't been around in India that long. So the fact is that when we serve those players through our publishing initiatives, uh, they are very just happy to see that Riot is engaging and Riot is connecting, and we are doing something for the players in India, which we are sort of, as I said, known for. So I think it just feels good to serve that community, even though it's a small community. Um, yeah, I mean, just to take like a minute, I think like of course I haven't been in Riot for a long time, but just connecting with senior leaders in Riot and understanding the ethos of the company, right? I think even back when the company started, it was all about, hey, the revenue will come, the players will come, but let's just make core players' lives much better,
Hmm.
right? And so even if it's like I don't know, thousands of players in India, it's good to serve them deeply. Is I think the fundamental thought about league, right? So that's kind of the core. Beyond that, I think MOBA itself, yeah, it's a genre that's tough. I think in India, we maybe 5 7 years ago we saw some successes on mobile, not for Riot, but in general on mobile MOBAs. Uh, as you said, the number of champions are increasing. I think some of the good things though is that Riot itself at a global level is investing in how do we make League a forever game, right? And so this includes things like improving ARAM, and so we're seeing that like even in India, a lot of the focus is on ARAM, which is just very easy to get into and kind of start to play. Arcane has been a huge success. I think a lot of fan base for Arcane in India as well that we see. So I think it's a game that we are trying to make approachable for new players through like game modes like ARAM, and I think our continued investments that you'll see over the next few years as well, right? Because India is not that unique in that sense, where like even in other regions you have this thing of, hey, how do we bring in new players into the right? So I think we are focused on that as a company. To your point about server, we don't have a server in India. We have had a server consolidation in Singapore and the Southeast Asia region. And the good news is the ping isn't bad. I mean, like it's now maybe 40 ping from Mumbai, which is very playable. So I think from a just game experience, if you want to play League, it's definitely I think very playable. The good thing with the server consolidation also is that we are definitely exploring how do we do more in not just making it league for India, but league for Southeast Asia, where teams from India also get to play with teams in
Hmm.
Singapore or Indonesia and Thailand, right? So I think there's opportunities there to explore. Um, if I kind of just take a pause, the way I feel about League is it's a game that's very close to our hearts. It's something that, as a company, and whoever's playing League, we want them to feel special. And so I think we're going to invest in it in whatever way we can in India, uh, despite anything else, right? It's not about, okay, how much can we grow and so on. It's just like, hey, this is our game and this is what we want to do for our players. Yeah.
I wanted to touch a bit on just the kind of the culture around esports in India as well. And I know, of course, like well, I say of course, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's like mobile gaming is like a bigger thing necessarily than what it is like out here in the West. And of course, you know, right, I've got the titles there as well. Um, so just talk to me a little bit like that about that. What is the like? How do people play esports titles in India? Is it mostly mobile?
Yeah, I mean, I'll get to esports, but before that, let's just talk about mobile for a bit. I think mobile itself is much bigger, undoubtedly, right? And this is, of course, if you combine casual and like mid-core and hardcore, it's much, much bigger, right? It's like hundreds of millions of people. Right? So it's definitely a huge universe. So the way I think about mobile and PC is slightly nuanced, but kind of talk through it, right?
Mhm.
When we take PC itself, India is one of the few markets in the world where gaming PC growth is like over 20%, right? So India itself is a growing economy. More and more people after, I think there's some kind of a study, I forget the reference to it, but there's a study that says after people buy three generations of phones, they buy a laptop. And so you see that happening in India where people are buying more and more gaming laptops. To watch Netflix on, to play games on, so on, right? So I think uh, at a macro level, it feels like PC gaming, India is one of the huge growth markets, and I think with Valorant, with League, with other titles that'll be up and coming, I think we are very focused on that market. Right. Separate from that is the mobile market. And so it's definitely a PC and mobile. And I mean, to talk a bit about console, India's a very small console market, but again, with India itself growing, PC console also growing quite rapidly over the next several years. But coming back to mobile, interestingly, isn't that high growth a market. It's a huge user base,
Mhm.
but it's kind of saturated, right? So but that said, we do want to bring all of our mobile titles to India, and so we are working through that. Now, coming to your question specifically about esports, I see it slightly differently. I think esports is not necessarily about scale. What I mean by that, it's not necessarily about how many people are playing it. It's a lot about how many people uh, are playing it seriously. Firstly, like in terms of teams and the ecosystem around it, and how many people are watching it, right? And the thing is, with a title like Valorant, I think we have some of the best players in the country saying, "Hey, I want to be playing Valorant," like who are sort of strategic, who have the mechanics, and who really want to represent at the world stage, right? So we have those kind of players, we have those kind of teams. And in terms of viewership, it's like India is one of the biggest markets. The interesting thing about India that's kind of unique is because Valorant is so popular in the college and college scene. What happens is that India being such a big mobile market, you have huge viewership on mobile, even though people aren't playing the game. They just want to tune in and watch Valorant games on mobile because they've heard it from friends in college. So we just see like across not only VCT Pacific, but VCT overall, like Americas and EMEA as well. A lot of viewership coming from India. So I think while mobile esports is a thing, I think PC esports is. I don't think of it as PC and mobile esports. I just think of what are the top esports games, and Valorant is one of those.
Mhm.
So,
And with Valorant, like you say, that's it's especially popular around there. Does it help, like, or how much does it help that in VCT we've got Global Esports that is an Indian org, and I don't think it does right now, but it had a roster of mainly Indian players as well. So how big is it to actually like see players up, competing at the top level and think, and kind of obviously that I imagine encourages people to play because they think that could be me up there.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think global esports has been like it's represented Valorant in South Asia really well, and it's something that people, as you said, are so excited to see that a team from India is representing in VC Pacific. So I think that's really important for players. VCSA has been also very good, and to see that hey, we have a tournament at a South Asia level that we can compete in, right? Has been really good. Yeah, it's. I think the global esports journey has been fantastic. Some of the players in that team have huge fandom. The other thing that's interesting about India League is that because of the time zones, right? Like, let's say it's 10 o'clock or 12 o'clock at night in India. It's like noon in the US. It's 7 p.m. in Europe, right? The reason I mentioned that is because of that, people staying up late to watch esports. They also tune into what's happening in Europe and also tune into what's happening in the US. So there's also great fandom for teams in Europe and US, and of course VCT Pacific. I think, yeah, definitely. I think Paper X has a huge following in India, for example. Yeah.
Amazing. Just on like the kind of overall strategy you guys have, how much, like, especially when you say like your job is kind of trying to get more people into the games essentially, and it's not so much about like obviously decision making with the games themselves. So how much of there is like a push and pull where you're maybe trying to adapt publishing to what is popular in the region versus trying to kind of lead it and kind of be the trendsetter, if you like?
Yeah, it's a good question. And if I understand your question correctly, and like maybe just reframing it, right? Like it's almost like how do we localize while staying true to the brand is kind of the flavor of the question.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's been good. I think over the last 2 years, I think we've developed great clarity around that. And it's really simple in many ways, right? Which is, I think the brand comes first, right? It's a global brand. It's a very well recognized brand with a strong story for Valorant specifically and also for League. And we want to stay very true to that, right? That said, from a local player standpoint, like the kind of initiatives we do around content creators or the kind of content we have on social media, or of course community tournaments or connecting with colleges, right? Those are extremely localized, right? So I think we want to celebrate our global brand and yet make it relevant, accessible, something that you connect to from a sort of emotional level at the local region, right? So I think of it as, hey, we have the brand, and then we have the local secret sauce on top of that, and right, that we do. It's worked very well. I think even what we are seeing with, like if I just think back over the last 2 years, right, whether it was the Harbor launch that we did and the music we did around the Harbor launch, which was very, with pianos and like a song with Hindi in it, right? So that very connected very well. If we look at, what we did last year, I feel very, even though it was a small thing, I feel very good about it, which was what we did for Diwali. we did a lot of Diwali celebrations in colleges across India. And just to say that, hey, we have a game that's global, but that really cares about our local celebrations and festivals. Right? And so I think that's the way we approach it. So trying to stay authentic to the brand and yet connecting with local players. Yeah.
Hmm. Nice.
It's not, I mean, just to maybe close the loop on that,
Hmm.
I don't, I, I haven't found it to be a challenge. I think Riot, just kind of going back, the, the thing that about, the thing I felt really good about Riot is it's from a culture standpoint, it's a very collaborative, very open discussion kind of environment within the company. So it's never been global is saying this and the local team need to do this. It's always a conversation we're having, and people are kind of changing their minds and saying, hey, that sounds really good. You should try that out. And we are saying, hey, we have some concerns around, like, are we doing too much? So it kind of has been very collaborative and very sort of a discussion. So it's been really nice to work in that environment.
Sure. And just in terms of looking ahead then, and new titles coming out from Riot, um, how much is there? What's the hope for, like, for example, 2XKO when that comes out? Because I know the fighting game scene is huge, but fighting games almost feel like a bit more of like a classic type of genre, whereas you say like
Yeah.
gaming in India has been a bit more of like an emerging market in the last maybe decade or so. So yeah, how do you see that going? What are your plans around that?
Yeah, I think, yeah, it's a good question. So I think this is the way I'd frame it, but then I'll make it specific, right? The way I'd frame it is when we are bringing a new title to the market, we want to make sure that there's sort of enough of enough players who are enjoying and playing the game that we can serve them, right? So I think it goes back to delivering a great player experience. So launching a game and then not being present, or launching a game and there being huge wait times to find a match, or huge latencies, those are kind of definitely, then we wouldn't launch the game, right? To put it very simply. So I think the primary lens through which we see this is, can we deliver a great player experience? Right? Now, coming to 2XKO, the fighting game community in India is small, but I hope to kind of connect more deeply with them over the next year. And I'm speaking only of India, but really in the region, I think we've had some stars, from Pakistan, for example, who've done really well in the fighting tournament. So I think we want to really see how do we bring this game. Also, there is the thing of the console version and like how many people are there on the latest console. But I think it's going to be a very um, thoughtful and considered approach, where if we are able to find that there are enough players that we can serve deeply and well, then we will launch, right? So it's not going to be about the money or the scale. That's not the way Riot has looked at this thing in the past. It's really been about the player community. So I think that's going to be the player primary focus, and then we'll see how it goes. Um, I think the thing you didn't ask, but definitely I'm sure is on your mind, is the sort of set of mobile titles that we have, right? And there we have a number of mobile titles. I end up playing a fair bit of TFT myself. Uh, but there it's kind of different because there's a huge audience of mobile gamers in India. But there again, we want to be very considered in saying, hey, it's the opposite end of that spectrum in terms of problem, where you have potentially hundreds of millions of people, and how do you serve them well, right? So it's again something that we'd be very considered about, but I'm excited about doing more there definitely in the next few years.
Yeah, and yeah, just touching just once we're on the mobile games as well. Obviously, Valorant Mobile coming in the future too. Is that like, do you think that's one that will really could really take off for you guys as well?
Yeah, I think Valorant Mobile, it's still one of those where we are, I mean, at a global level, working out the plans around. And I think I'll be looking to align with that as I know more around those plans. Uh, at a personal level, I'd be very excited to do more around it. But I think that I'll get more direction from our global teams, how and when and so on. And yeah, but I'm excited about that as a player in India. I'd love to play the game on mobile. I know my friends would too. Yeah.
Sure. And maybe just a couple more questions to start rounding out then. Some easier ones, I think. What's who? Well, maybe this isn't easy actually. Who do you think is winning Masters Toronto?
Yeah, I'm not going to reveal my bets on that, but yeah, I'm excited for Masters Toronto. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't have any bets on that.
All right, no worries. I'll pin you on this one then. I saw on your
Yeah,
profile.
but on that, I'd be excited if it's somebody from the Pacific region for sure.
The diplomatic answer. I'm gonna pin you on this one though. I saw in your profile
Yeah.
as well. It said that in like your your gaming history that FIFA was one of the games that you played a lot. Who's winning the Champions League tomorrow?
Oh, I haven't been following football,
Oh
unfortunately.
no.
I've completely dropped off, that's drop. It's all been cricket for the last few years for me.
All right.
Uh,
Fair enough.
but I haven't. Yeah, but who is playing the finals? I don't even know.
It's PSG and Inter Milan.
Oh, it's PSG and Inter Milan. Yeah, between those two, I don't know. I guess Inter Milan, but yeah, but it's just a wild guess.
Yeah, no worries. Not a problem. Well, thanks very much for your time, Aaron.
Yeah,
It's been really
actually,
interesting.
sorry, funny story about FIFA though,
Sure.
but I got into watching football after starting to play FIFA on the console. So, and the first country was Argentina, and the second was Brazil. So all my games are Argentina, Brazil. So I'm a big Argentina fan. So I was so excited for the World Cup last time.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
And do you remember? Did you change the buttons so that you would shoot with like square, or did you shoot with circle?
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah, yeah.
was
That's fair.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
the classic argument. Yep, I was a square
yeah.
player as well. Good to hear. But yeah, thanks very much for your time, Aaron. I think we'll have to leave it there. But yeah, it's been really interesting and a lot different from the interviews we kind of do here usually on Hotspawn. So yeah, I think it's been
Mhm.
really good insight. Thanks very much for your time.